The Deercast is brought to you by Divana Hunting, Tom's Targets, Style, Game Larder by Tarrant Refrigeration, Harkeela and Fox Bullets.
So hello everyone and welcome to episode 39 of the Deercast. We are very kindly joined by Joe Hayward this evening. Joe is the accounts manager at Oakland Park, but also oversees a large amount of the game intake. I'm probably going to make Joe slightly blush here, but he is the son of the renowned game dealer Alan Hayward, who actually is lurking in the background behind Joe on this podcast to answer any questions that we might have sort of relating perhaps to the past or anything Joe wants his dad to answer in his place. So thank you very much for joining us, Joe, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me, Tom and Harry. It's I think it'd be a nice evening to discuss views and oversee of our business, and
Thank you. And I suppose the obvious question, which some people will know the answer to immediately because they probably supply you with deer or they might even buy deer from you. What or who is Oakland Park, and how did it come into being?
Well, Oakland's was started, I think it was September of 23. The idea came as the brainchild of Seaton Fairhurst, who owns Fairhurst Estates. He approached John and my father, John Prince, who's the other MD of the business, and said, basically, we want this. He's a very passionate man in the shooting industry anyhow. He runs his own shoot, and he wanted to make a change, a statement, a business that's required, I would say. I think there aren't, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's only 7 big game dealers around in the country now. Lots of smaller scale ones as well, perhaps, but his idea was to create something new, something big, and be an aid to the industry. So that's when the whole idea started.
And whereabouts are you based, just for everyone's reference? Again, it feels very silly me asking this question because I know where you're based, but as I said, there'll be people listening to this who don't. They might be based overseas or Scotland or wherever they are.
We are junction 13 of the M4, right off Chivy Services. We're actually right behind it. So quite a convenient location for a lot of people in the south.
I'm guessing that was a strategic choice in terms of going for that location in terms of transport links, etc.
I'd say it was fairly convenient in the area that was of access to us with the ground we were given.
Yeah. And are you buying pheasants, partridge, deer, hare, everything?
Everything game and venison related, yes. All game birds during their seasons. Obviously pigeons pretty much all year round, and deer all year round based on their seasons, yeah.
And I was just having a look at your website. You've also got have you got a deer park on site? I actually have never been to Oakland, so I need to make a visit. But yeah, have you got one on site?
Yes, we do. We have 3 parks actually. We've got 5 different species. We've got Chinese water deer. We've got some pure white fallow, some red deer, Japanese sika, and some axis. It's separate to our business, should I say, because the often thought from people is they're farmed. They're not. They're very much a deer park. One, I think it's a niche thing to have. 2, it's can offer training to people that aren't aware of certain species in this country. Yeah, the other option of that is live sales as well. So we do breed them. We do manage the genetics and the stock levels, and we do a little bit of live selling to other people that want to build their own deer parks, or looking to just swap genetics out or have some different species.
And did that come before the game dealing, the park there, or did it all sort of come at once?
It all started in conjunction with one another. I mean, the fencing was going in while our foundations were going in. So it was able to keep us busy on sourcing deer, and getting the nice, genetic breeds of stock in there while we were waiting for the barn to build.
And the barn is quite an impressive barn, if I can say that. So I came to your open day, whenever that would have been. My memory's terrible, and coming down the sort of slip road from the Chivy Services, it's a big building.
It's quite hidden away, which is good as well.
Yeah.
Based on the industry, but yeah, it's a fair old whack. I mean, we're already looking for expansion within as well, which we've already put another room on, to help with further processing of the unit.
And because when you set it up, I'm guessing you must have had a kind of vision in terms of roughly what sort of numbers were going to go through it, and whether that was going to be mainly deer or mainly birds or a bit of a mix of the two? How's that sort of played out?
Well, it's certainly going to grow this season compared to last. I think we built it with a very large venison room, having come from my father's previous business where we were small venison orientated and everything else was all your other types of meat, for example. We always wanted to build on that and build a much bigger venison unit because it's quite an important part of the industry, and we all know the deer population is quite high and becoming a problem in certain areas. So the idea is to create a larger market in this country for venison. It is changing slightly. It hasn't been promoted enough over the years, and a lot of people aren't aware of the natural food sources out there. Not let alone the health benefits to it. So we sort of wanted to be able to push that market as much as we can and work with other people to push that market, and we're there to provide it. Our intake room can hold about 400 carcasses, over 100 in the skin fridge, and then our game bird line. Yeah, it's a fair old whack, and it's full quite often. Well, I say it was quite a shock February, March last season when all of a sudden all the gamekeepers stopped, had their break, and then everybody went out shooting, and we were on probably 200 deer a day at one point.
Bloody hell!
Wow, really? And do you have a shop on site where you're processing your own and selling it there, or does it go where does it go from you?
So the main market for us is the wholesalers, those that serve the catering industry. We do a couple of export markets as well, mainly roe deer, where they go to the Netherlands and Holland, for example, where it's more a recognised carcass out there, especially red deer as well. Most people like the fallow or muntjac in this country, so we target big wholesalers, those that can put all the meat into the pubs, the restaurants, the hotels, the schools, that sort of thing. We're trying to push mainly bulk stock at the moment. Get large quantities of venison out there into the industry, allowing us to buy more and doing our bit for the industry.
So I've got a question in relation to the sort of peaks and troughs of the year, because you just alluded to that sort of week in March being chaos by the sounds of things if you were doing 200 a day. Yep. We're recording this podcast on the 6th of August, and if my Instagram is to be believed, then it looks like thousands of fallow prickets and bucks have all been taken already. Do you see that again, sort of beginning of August, massive spike, then it tail off again and then peak again at other points? What's the sort of normal cycle for you guys?
I think it's difficult to tell based on last season. I mean, last season we were quite new. A lot of people are like, well, should I leave my game dealer to go to this new one that I don't know anything about? So we had some, but it wasn't that busy. I mean, we're seeing definitely a peak this season compared to last. As we pick up new suppliers, people are recognizing us as a business and they're working with us. We're also able to work with them and assess the condition of those carcasses that are coming in, and who we wish to work with. But I think it is very seasonal. Yes, we will get a peaks here and there, especially when this game bird season commences. A lot of the gamekeepers that they're not out there haven't got the time to go out shooting, so that will fall off. Then you've probably got a lot of people on the park culls, as well as your recreational stalkers. And then come February, sort of end of Feb, you've got that March period, which is very busy for intake.
And I'm guessing there must be quiet times of the year when you wish we as deer stalkers were sort of increasing throughput to you. When are those windows? Because again, this is kind of opportunity for a plea to industry, as it were.
In the seasons you have, it's difficult because obviously seasons for a reason, for antler growth and for repopulation, and with the does being out of season. Obviously it'd be nice to get some fresh deer coming in on those off seasons, but the demand isn't as high either. The summer demand isn't really in your satellite fillets or your haunches. They're in your sausages and your burgers and mince and that sort of thing, where we use frozen stock, so we can push a lot of stuff in the freezer, so we're set for the season. I think there are a lot of deer out there, and I think we'll certainly get enough coming in now. We've got quite a wide range of stalkers and suppliers. I think we've probably got over 300 that we work with. But if you were to say a month, I mean, August is often the big push. Would you offer an opinion to that. So, what month would, if you wanted people to shoot more deer, what month would it be? September. That's when it kicks off. Yeah, September time.
Okay, duly noted.
That must be quite challenging from a business perspective, especially with sort of staff and that sort of thing. Come July when it's really really quiet. How do you sort of manage that?
You have, well, in our case, we'll probably have the same. We'll maybe have a couple of temporary staff for the winter, sort of from September through to March. But at the moment, pretty much all our staff are full timers. There is still work to be done. There is still fresh deer coming in. A lot of it's just skinning and stamping through the vets. We work with a couple of dog meat companies that take a lot of carcasses from us. A lot of the smaller carcasses as well. Muntjac, Chinese water deer, that sort of thing, which people like to eat, but isn't as common as fallow for the larger cuts for the restaurants and that sort of thing. Yes, it's quiet at times. We do keep our orders up, I think, through burgers, sausages, mince, kofters, that sort of thing, producing summer food, and also using frozen stock. We are able to defrost and advertise as such and say that it is frozen because it's out of season. This is the stock we're able to sell. Some people keep venison on their menus all year round. Often it's mainly for the winter.
Is that something you have to plan for in that obviously fallow season, including the males, ends at the end of April. So have you got to make sure you've got enough frozen stock put in the freezers basically to then see you through to the start again in August? Or actually, is there no sort of frozen stock or not very much frozen stock and you rely on sort of roebucks and muntjacs sort of trickling in through that closed season for the fallow?
Difficult really. We don't really cut roe deer actually. Most of our roe deer goes abroad whole. That's quite a good market to Belgium. I don't find that it's a common cut that people ask for in this country, whereas I would recommend a fallow or muntjac instead if they're looking for a certain taste, whether it's fat or not. Sorry, if you repeat the question, I've lost my train of thought.
Yeah, I was saying, how do you have to sort of make sure you have a sort of huge stockpile of fallow basically frozen down at the end of April to see you through to the start of August again?
Yes, I'd say. We had a large amount of stock from the first season, mainly new business, same again, customers on the same impression. Are they going to sink? Are they going to swim? Should we go into business with them, or should we leave our current supplier to acquire venison from these guys? So we were freezing like mad last season, but off season we sold pretty much everything. Very happy about that. We emptied the freezers out completely. So it does prove as well, though, that those that haven't maybe put enough stock in the freezer, or the industry is growing, so therefore the demand is higher for that off-season stock. Sure, we have enough stock for the season, but at the end of the day, if we sell it prior fresh, then obviously that's a win.
And are you allowed to divulge rough sort of numbers that you went through, or if not, so the proportion of your carcasses that might be fallow versus red versus muntjac versus Chinese water deer, just to give people an idea of the kind of scale?
I'm going to say, I think someone told me we did 12,000 deer last season. What do you think of proportion for species in matter to that? I mean, Chinese water deer probably like 20. No, we had 80 from one trap, but that was it. Yeah, roughly saying we're about 60 to 70% of which is fallow. Probably 10-15 of that again is roe. And then you're on to the muntjac, and probably red is less common.
And I think last year was your first sort of full year of being in operation. How did it go? What were your expectations going into that, and did it sort of pan out as you expected broadly?
I think it was a slow start, as with most businesses. I suppose it was a bit of a panic at the beginning. It went from too much stock going away, then it sort of had a reverse, and I was going out shooting as many prickets as I could off my own estate to provide the venison for these orders, until we started getting a few regular suppliers coming in. And earlier you said about stock quantities, give you a vague idea. I think we sold over the off season about 27 ton of haunches. that we'd built up off season.
I mean, these are truly like staggering numbers. Where is, I know you said most of it is going to trade. Is that domestic trade? I know roe is going overseas, but the rest of it, is that all sort of going UK based? Or
Most of the fallow last season were pretty much cut and sold. If you satellite fillets, your saddles, that's the most common for restaurants. Restaurants will use the whole saddle, they use the bones in that for a stock or a slow roast perhaps. Whereas a satellite fillets is, fully trim it up, make it into a nice a restaurant meal. Haunches less common. I think in catering, haunch steaks are very common. They go along with other orders. We struggle to sell haunches on its own at the beginning of the season. It feels like it's a less recognised piece of meat, which is weird to me because I love a haunch steak. I think it's one of the favourable cuts. And the front end sold itself. It's diced, trim, mince, that sort of thing.
And then in terms of people supplying you, if let's say Harry or I woke up tomorrow and said, right, we want to supply Oakland Park, how does that work in terms of, I mean, again, I know the answers to some of these questions, so it feels slightly weird asking them, but it's delivery to you guys, isn't it? I think at one point during the season last season you were offering collection with I think a slight discounted price, wasn't it?
We did offer, yes, still the same this season. Depending on the area, we offer a discounted rate on collection, but we prefer delivery. We tendency run collection when we're collecting game birds during the season, so we can collect the deer as well when we're in the same area. And then off season, I mean, we get enough deer, I believe. I think we will get enough deer brought to us, so we don't rush into saying we're going to come and collect your deer. It's obviously preferred that it's delivered to us, then we've got our vans we can use for deliveries or for running out for those game birds.
Yeah, and you've got a really good WhatsApp group I'm a member of where you publish the price list at the start of the season, and then if there are any changes during the season, which is, it's so clear because for each different animal you've got how it's shot, whether it's sort of clean or bad carcass as it were, and the price per kilo. It's all incredibly kind of transparent in terms of how it's all set out. One thing I can't remember, lead versus non-lead. Do you take both? Neither?
At the moment, I say we take both because it's not legislation. At the end of the day, we have to follow legislation. If it comes into place that lead is what's required, that's what we got to buy. If they said, right, you have to start using copper rounds, we got to buy copper rounds. We would have to follow legislation as it is. But it's not necessary in terms of our customers saying this is what we want just yet. We could probably pick and choose because there is a range of customers that already have swapped to using copper rounds and that sort of thing. But I've heard lots of mixed reviews about it. So I personally, 3 years, if I was saying at least 3 years before it becomes a legislation, that's something we'd have to adhere to.
Yeah.
And it'd be interesting to hear, because of the quantity of carcasses that you get to look at, if you notice a significant difference between the two in terms of carcass and the state of the carcasses that are actually coming to you.
I couldn't say on the round, to be honest. I mean, types of round people use is quite interesting. Obviously, some people use a soft round nose bullet, or perhaps like an SST or one of the round, which I use, which is quite an explosive round, you could say. But personally, I head or neck shoot. That's what I've always done. That's what I continue to do. So it works for me, and that round works for what I do. But those that can't, absolutely fine. Or those that prefer not to. It's a sensitive topic to a lot of people on type of shot.
Yeah, it is, and you've probably got away very lightly on that one compared to some of our other guests who've had a real grilling on it.
Yeah, we try and say that we are 90% intake for head or neck shot. That is our statistics, and that's what we try and keep it at. So when someone comes in and goes, I only body shoot, well, that's fine. However, we highly promote it internally. I can show someone when they come through the factory and go, this is why. Have a look at the state of the carcass in skin, completely different when you skin that carcass, the damage. Often it hasn't been addressed properly either. It hasn't been cleaned straight away. all that blood seems to run down the back of the carcass, and you lose a lot more damage, lot more meat than you may believe. Especially the type of round. If you're using perhaps a wrong type of round, something that's going to make up, you can have a big old exit hole. And often that clean body shot's taking the shoulder out the other side, which has lost the front end for us. It makes it difficult in working with the carcass, especially.
Yeah. I know from my own experience when I have body shot something, is you often sort of look at it and think, well, that's not that bad. And it's once you get the coat off that bruising actually isn't just around the sort of shot site. Actually, it might be like a handprint size on the entry or exit, and then on the other side it's 2 or 3 handprints wide, and it's started to creep up into the saddle, and you see actually it's doing quite a lot more than you think it was.
The damage is quite severe on types of round that people use, is that sort of thing as well, and also how they treat the carcass straight after the shot. That can make a massive difference. As to why we say we have our statistics at about 90%, and we do keep it at that. The odd recreational stalker that brings in the odd one here and there, that's fine, that doesn't matter. And if you shoot 9 in the head and shoot 1 in the body, we're still going to take it. But it's personal preference based on history, and without being cocky, I can head shoot, so that's what I do. Some people I understand can't, or they're not sure about it. They're perhaps brilliant range shot, but can't quite put it together on an animal. It's something, not everybody can do it, I get that. But that's what biggest thing we say is we don't say you have to. If you can't, please don't, because it can go wrong, and that's when I think you get bad press from it.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Harry.
I was just going to ask slightly selfish questions on the carcass front, preparation-wise. I've always wondered about 2 things. Firstly, bleeding after the shot is taken as soon as possible, obviously. How much difference does that make to the carcass? And if you chest shoot something, do you wash it out when you get back or not wash it out?
Interesting on the wash, because I used to, but I advise now that we shouldn't. If you've got a bit of muck in there, try and wipe it out with a blue roll or something like that. What the vets say is that by washing it out, you're spreading that disease or that what's the word for it? The
sort of contamination.
That's it, contamination. You're spreading that contamination around the carcass, and often, perhaps after hanging for a few days, that might have seeped into the meat. So they say don't wash it, just give it a quick wipe. But I mean, straight after the carcass, straight after the shot, if you just get a bit of water on there, I think that's perfectly adequate just to clean it up before it sort of dries out and bleeds out. And the same with bleeding. I think that's a massive thing. It's just to relieve all that blood from inside the body, especially on a body shot, because if you can release that blood out of the carcass, let it drain, then you haven't got that going elsewhere around the carcass with a hole that's got an open wound, and it's going to let blood seep down those shoulders.
We're sort of getting into, and I heard someone refer to it the other day as like a grade A carcass, a grade B carcass, and a grade C carcass. If you had sort of, let's say, every stalker in England sat down in a room in front of you, and you were able to say to them, guys, this is what makes a grade A carcass, and this is what you need to do to make it grade A, what would those things be? Obviously, apart from what we've just mentioned, what when you see a carcass that comes into Oakland and you think, oh, that's absolutely pucker?
Biggest thing on that is cleanliness and how it's been looked after. If you can go straight up to a carcass, that grade A is, you bleed it, you can gralloch it, you can do it straight away. That's the best bet. And within half an hour to an hour, really, you want to have that hanging in the chiller. That it just keeps it nice and clean. You haven't got any, especially now, it's still 17 degrees sometimes in the evening. You're going to have fly about. The last thing you want is insects or the odd fox coming around and nibbing a bit of your carcass because you left it in the field too long. That is, you can see that on intake. You can see whether it's been left in the field because it's all squished up, or been left in a tray, or if it's been left to hang and it's nice and outstretched. Gralloch, ensuring people are able to gralloch. Commonly, we see a lot of people that can't cut the back legs off. I have seen clippers used quite a lot, bolt cutters and that sort of thing. It's we do show people because it makes it difficult in skinning, then getting over that bone. So we can say, look, this is how you do it. This is where the mark is. So please, can you do this going forward? We're happy to teach people if they're not sure. We're here to help everyone at the end of the day. I'm not going to just say off you go, mate, and don't come here again. We'd rather try and work with them.
Yeah.
And do you split the sort of pelvis as well, or would you rather those are left as is?
We do, personally. Some people don't. Myself skinning, I find it easier because you can start working down both sides when the rib is split. Also for assessing the shot condition. Quite commonly you get a body shot one they haven't done the rib on, and I find it difficult to look inside that carcass and see whether it's done any shoulder damage. I prefer it when it's open. You can have a good look inside the carcass, make sure it's clean. You haven't got a heart sat at the bottom adding another kilo to it, which does happen as well. That's how we prefer it provided, but other people have their own way, I understand.
And in the sheer number of deer that you have processed in the last 12 months, I'm guessing you get to see all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And for example, for me, I've found air gun pellets or 2-2 pellets in poor deer where you just haven't expected them to be. I've found weird bone growths that you used to think, oh, that's a bit funky. Have there been any other sort of things like that you guys have encountered and thought, God, that's a bit unusual?
I think maybe for me, the first thing, I've been involved around deer for a long time. However, seeing so many come in, you get to see old stab wounds, that sort of thing that we weren't sure about. Maybe they've grown funny in a big old pus, or the common one is the back leg. Gets caught when they're young and gets broken off, and it's all healed over funny. I don't think I can highlight something specific, but yeah, we do get a few weird and wonderful things come in, and often where the carcass perhaps has been dragged, especially on roe deer, where people drag roe when they're losing their skin, they look going from that summer coat to the winter coat, or vice versa, and it pulls all the skin out, and you can just get this big rough bit of skin all down the body. Sorry? Yes, yeah, it pulls the fur out from dragging that carcass. Doesn't present it too well. And obviously, we'll lose a bit of meat from that because it's damaged essentially.
Yeah. So, in terms of processing an animal, how if someone was literally to bring one in, how quickly? Because I'm guessing your guys are pretty slick at doing it. How long or how quickly are they breaking down a carcass? I appreciate. Actually, in reality, they go and sit in a chiller, then they probably get skinned, they age for a bit, and then they might get broken down. But if you gave one of your guys a carcass and said, break that down as quickly as possible, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, they'd skin it in, Nico skinned a deer in about a minute, wouldn't he? Yeah. About 1.5 to 2 minutes, that's it. I mean, they're doing 80 a day, 100 a day, easily. Yeah. Nico on his own will do 80 to 100 a day, and there's 2 of them in there. So we're looking at about 150 or so of carcasses we can get through. Breaking down, depends how you break it down, I suppose. Primarily, we do it into spinal joints. We take the neck, 2 front shoulders, then you got the saddle and the 2 haunches. They could probably do that in 5 minutes or something if they wanted to, but it depends on how further you want to break that down. Well, I was just saying, he said, put it in perspective, the speed of his skinning, it takes 4 guys to keep cutting deer with how many deer he's pushing out.
Keep up. Wow.
That's making me feel quite self-conscious about the speed I can skin.
Well, I'm the same. That's why I'm not in there. But yeah.
Something I've always wondered is what happens to all of your, what's left after you've broken down into primals, rib cage, spine, sort of back of the sternum and all that sort of thing. What do you do with all that?
Prior to the last season, the bones and the skins were waste. Unfortunately, they were being taken away by a company for us. This season, there may be an outlet for bones, which would be a significant change to us. Obviously, with the quantities of deer we're going through quite a few ton, twice a week even. Haven't found a market really for someone to use skins. A lot of people want them salted, and they want them stored. We've got 40 ton of storage for our venison. We haven't got the space for skins, and all the time to salt them. Have had in the past, my father's previous company, we were sending them salted abroad to be done into skins. First lot came back absolutely fine. Second lot probably cost us the profit that we had made on the first lot. It went wrong, and it's a bit detrimental, really. And we had an outlet then, we had a farm shop where we don't now. So you'd probably be left with 5,000 skins that we wouldn't know what to do with. So that is something that has to be thrown. But hopefully bones are something we can at least cover our costs of getting out the door. So we're not.
What is it they're going in to be used for?
I think they use them for dog food mainly. A lot of dog food companies now are buying from us, and they buy whole carcasses. They have to be stamped by a vet. Whereas I think it was even about 6 months ago, we had that problem come up with a dog food company. Yes, it has to be fit for human consumption. But a lot of the times before, a lot of hunters were taking deer to dog food companies. Then there was a slight hiccup, should I say, in the industry, and everything has to be stamped by an FSA registered site. So we're supplying them whole carcasses, and I believe they either break it down or they put the whole thing straight into a mincer for dog food.
Wow, gosh. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, Joe's probably going to wish you asked your question now, Harry, because I'm going to ask a couple of controversial questions. So Joe might suddenly pretend his internet's not working. This one, I have huge sympathy for you guys as game dealers, but everyone will always say, oh, well, why is a headshot fallow worth £2 a kilo and a headshot muntjac only worth £1 a kilo? I can't remember what price it is, so feel free to tell me off for that. But to my mind, the answer is, well, on a hook, they both, if you put them on a hook, they each take up a hook. And so if you've got a muntjac hanging up there, it's taking up the space that a fallow could have. And the yield of meat from a muntjac in relation to the amount of time spent on it must be much worse than with a fallow in terms of, I'm guessing, they take a similar amount of time to break down, but on a fallow, you're yielding, I don't know, 20 kilos of meat, and on a muntjac, you're yielding 7 kilos or whatever it is. So from your point as a business, it's probably not worth the muntjac. It just isn't worth as much. I'm guessing that's the answer.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, in context, you're paying the refrigeration and that sort of thing, the costs, which are only minor in a large scheme of things. It's the same for each. It's demand a lot of the time. The biggest demand for us for muntjac in large quantities is these dog food companies, where they're paying a smaller rate, taking higher volumes, but it's a lesser margin. So that assesses what we can pay for them. And whereas our fallow, we're breaking down for daily orders quite commonly. Sorry? As my father was saying as well, barbecue food is common for muntjac. It's less common in certain seasons, and other seasons it's that dog food mainly, or that what they were pushed to buy, I suppose. But the fallow is what we tend to break down for all of our customers on a day-to-day basis. So there is a bit more margin in that for us in terms of depending on what cuts you put them into, so we can pay a bit more for that in respect of it.
And where do you think the venison market is going? And I know that's asking you to slightly crystal ball gaze, and I'm not asking what your prices are going to be in 6 months' time, but for me as a deer stalker, it'd be lovely to think that loads more people are going to be eating venison in a few years' time because everyone's becoming a little more kind of eco-conscious, and venison to me is a wonderfully kind of green meat, and so it'd be great to think there's going to be more demand and therefore the price would go up. But I'm just a sort of naive stalker. You guys see and know the industry.
Yeah, I think it's difficult in terms of venison prior was always pushed to this prime quality, luxury item, which it isn't. It can be if you put a fancy barrel cut satellite fillet on your plate, but it's a third of the price of a beef fillet now, so it's still not expensive. And you put it in perspective, if people are happy to go and make their beef Wellington and it's 150 quid, it's going to cost them in beef fillet. It's probably 50 or 60 pound maximum in the same with a piece of venison. And it's probably half the price for mince, that sort of thing, especially on the rate of the beef and pork and lamb and everything are going through the roof now. But the other thing is I say to everyone, it's a natural, it's wild, it's overpopulated. They aren't just going to depopulate on their own. There are people out there doing their work for the environment. Obviously, there's a lot of long-term effect as well, with less game cover damage. Same with general damage for trees exactly the same, and your wheat and your barley fields that are being eaten by your deer and lying up at it and creating big divots. So there are people out there that are managing that population and looking after the other factors as well as the fact of harvesting meat that's going to the what's the train of thought now? The food to be eaten, essentially, food chain. That's it.
Yeah. So do you think actually, because I mean, again, we're faced with such large numbers of deer that we need to manage to sort of get populations back under control. So actually, I don't know, are we going to see venison price drop, do you think, because of sheer volumes that might come onto the market, or is that going to be sort of supported by the demand? I know it's probably difficult for you guys to answer, sort of only operating for one season in terms of where that demand is going year on year.
It is difficult to tell. It depends on how many suppliers we have and the demand we have. I mean, personally, I'd rather have less suppliers that we can work with closely, but pay them the same rate, than have more suppliers and have to say, well, I can't pay you this price because I've got 400 in the fridge, but I'll take them at a lesser rate. That's not what we're trying to get to. We're trying to take them and pay at least a decent rate for them so that everybody's got a bit of a win out of it. Everybody makes their margin at the end of the day. A lot of people, it's their business in deer management, and a lot of people it's just a recreational hunt for them that they enjoy doing. So everybody's got to make their margin, should I say. But obviously, yes, we'd love to see the venison industry grow. I think it will grow. It is growing slightly. There are a lot of people out there now that are promoting it. Probably not enough of the big names. There's a lot of pick your famous chefs, for example. I think it would change a lot if one of those guys said, "This is the venison that I eat, and I get this from this guys or from these guys. I highly recommend this," and just did a simple video on it. I think that would go very far in the industry, and a lot of people would be, more, pick your Gordon Ramsay or your James Martin and that sort of thing, that would say X amount of protein is really high, it's really natural, it's really good for you. Eat venison. I think that would make a massive difference. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there that are using it, and it is growing, which is great to see. Great to see for the industry, great to see as a business perspective as well. But I think it's certainly got some more growth to come.
Yeah, interesting. I was thinking the other day about how you can add value to your carcass, and it made me think about coming slightly back to the conversation about bones and skins, and utilizing the things that actually come on a carcass that a lot of the time just either get chucked in a hedge or in the bin. In Scotland, obviously, I always see the gillies taking the red offal back to the larder, as well as sometimes even the tripe and the pizzles, and apparently their game dealers up there take them and give them something for them. What's the reason that isn't really the case down here?
I think it maybe hasn't been promoted by customers saying this is what we want, so to speak. I mean, red deer tails, that's quite a big thing. I think it's an aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
Not so much in your roe tail. It's not what they want. They want the red. We do buy pluck. Don't know if we're allowed to advertise that, actually, are we? Yeah, I think so. Yes, we are. So I've always formed the carcasses I shoot, taking the heart, liver, the kidneys, the spleen, and the lungs now as well. So that's also a market we have for. So we do promote people to bring it in. Smaller rate, we're saying £1 a kilo for it, but it gives you something. It's something on top for your carcass that you may as well, use, put it back into the food chain, rather than chuck it in a hedge somewhere or leave on a field or chuck in a pit, for example, whatever people do with it. Less so with the other things that you say. That I think there are markets for it, but the sheer number of deer we would get, there's not a market for that.
No, it's pretty niche. Some of the stalkers I used to go up to Scotland with used to chew on a bit of tripe on the way back down, and I thought, this is not going to go mainstream.
Yeah, you can do it, but I won't. Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's such a livers, hearts, lungs, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, but all of that offal is so good for you.
Yeah.
And it's such a waste. You imagine the amount of tons of it that get thrown in hedgerows by stalkers. And it's literally the work of a moment to put it in a plastic bag, and take it back and put it in the chiller. So, well, it's good to hear that you take it.
Yeah, I'll just say to people, a lot of people think, oh, what do I use? So it's easy, just get a big roll of plastic bags from Tesco that cost you £1, and you're probably going to get 500 quid worth of offal in that at some point. So
Yeah.
You may as well use it. You may as well find a source for it, and we have that source now.
Well, and someone once said to me the other day, you've got to feed a growing market if you want it to grow, say, or want it to continue growing. So something like the offal, if you guys have found something for it, then it's down to us to give that to you to then be able to regularly be able to supply it to the people who want it and prove that that supply is there and actually then be able to grow it and hopefully possibly even increase demand going forwards as well.
Yeah, well, it's on that is I would say to people, it's not a lot. It's only a fiver for that fallow that you've shot, £4, for example. A lot of people would just tell us, I'm not going to bother with that. Fair enough. But as you say, feeding the market, help us out a little bit. We're trying to give you something. It's not a lot, I understand. But the market's just come to us. It's a new market for us that we've managed to obtain. So help us help you, so to speak.
Yeah.
To grow the market, and we can obtain more of it, or if pricing increases, then all well and good, and we can replicate that.
Well, with the cost of ammunition these days, that covers a couple of bullets.
That certainly does, yeah. £1.50, £2 a round if you're using Norma, which I don't know why you are. It's about £3.50 a round, so.
Yeah. And so what, again, crystal ball gazing slightly for you, what's the future of Oakland? Where do you guys want to get to?
There are a lot of long-term goals to grow the business. Obviously, I think we're just taking it step by step at the moment now. There are multiple conversations whether we grow the current stage of our business or we add on. Can we try and we're all involved in the shooting industry. Pretty much everybody that works for us, especially those that started it. We've always been involved in, and I myself am involved in the deer parks as well. So the darting and the movement of deer, and my dart rifle and my humane dispatch and that sort of thing. So it's all segments to the business that we can offer. So it might be nice to grow those segments of the business. Has been discussed. It'd be nice we've got a temporary range in there currently that we use for zeroing, whether we explore that into a commercial range, enabling us to teach people and educate people more on the industry and on shooting, or whether we perhaps build a shop or things like that. There's so many different suggestions that have been floating around in the air, should I say. But for now, we're just going to take it step by step, grow the business on site and with the unit that we currently have, see where we go from there. But there's quite a few possibilities for the future.
Have you got space for expansion where you are, or would you need to go elsewhere for that?
Well, this season we extended another room on a warehouse internally, so we built a further processing room. So there is space to do so. I think it's enough space for us for now, and then we'll see how the season goes. And there was talk about growing out of it within year 3, whether we have a larger unit or try and grow internally. But we still need warehouse storage and space for all our pallets of boxes, for example, and machinery and that sort of thing.
Definitely.
Would you ever consider satellite, I don't know, hubs or units that fed back into the main unit, or is that just a logistical nightmare?
It's been discussed. Down the line, I think we'll look more into it. It is a bit of a nightmare because you've got to make sure who you're working with. Mm-hmm. I know some areas, especially down like Sussex Way, there are a lot of people that would happily provide that, and they would probably provide the site for us to put it on. Logistic though is a little bit different on assessing that carcass. You're going to have some sort of camera set up so people don't just drop off and leave it, and then you go pick it up and you're missing 20 carcass tags, and they're not 9 headshot, they're actually 2, and they've swapped deer around and that sort of thing. There's got to be a level of trust in there, and you work with maybe 5 people in that one area, depending on the size of their operation, because otherwise then you need staff down there that you would probably find more beneficial up here. We all have a different way of running a business at the end of the day, and a different intake system. Although it's all sort of the same principles, it's that training that you'd have to provide in certain areas, which could be beneficial going forward. It depends on how many deer we need. I think there are a lot of deer around in our current area, and a lot of people travel with it. A lot of people prefer pickups, but I'd have people that do travel over 2 hours sometimes because the pricing in their area just isn't qualifying, or they prefer to work with us. I'd say we're quite a good bunch to work with down at Oakland's. We're quite a bit of a laugh, so we're easy to get on with, and I think that's an appeal for people as well.
It definitely does feel on the WhatsApp group like you do have a bit of a community, if I can put it that way.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I like to try and say that, and my number's on there. If anybody's got a problem, you can always ring it, or you ring the landline and ask a question if you have a concern about anything. And we're quite, we off season not so much, but certainly in season we're posting what we want. Price changes, it's just a bit of a nudge to people. Hares at the moment, for example, we're after hares, but a little nudge in there to say this is what we're after, guys. Just a reminder, this is what we're paying, because some people look at whole price list and overlook. They just look at the fallow and they think that's all I shoot and don't look at the rest of the pricing. But actually, they might have a bit of ground. They can go and shoot something else. So yeah, we like to just put constant things out there, and there's plenty of admins on the chat there. Anybody will answer a question if anyone has it. So we're happy to talk to anybody whenever, as long as it's not like 3 a.m, because I won't answer my phone. But any other time is okay.
And well, a brief aside, hare. Why particularly now? Are you after hare?
Just this dog meat company mainly actually is after quite a lot. Less
Hare
rabbits
over rabbit,
common
particularly.
Thing. Rabbits tendency, they want rabbits. We have a good market for rabbits if they are good, clean headshot. Paunched is the main thing as well. Whereas hares, they don't want them paunched.
They just want them literally whole, everything.
They just want them whole as they come, headshot, whole, hung up. That's it. Whereas rabbits have to be gralloped or paunched, I say.
I'll have to do a hare cull for you.
Yeah, it's good money. Good money in hares actually. If you shoot a few, it's good money in them. Well, for example, over 3 kilo, we're paying $450 a hare now. And if it's under 3 kilo,
hare.
$450 a hare, yeah. And they're £3 if they're under 3 kilo or less, depending on the size. You get the odd diddy little thing come in. But
Tom, I know what we're doing this weekend.
Yeah. I think, sorry, this might be too graphic for some of our listeners, but they don't want the hares paunched, and this is going to sound really stupid. Is that because they literally just put the whole thing into a mincer hole?
I don't know, to be honest, and I don't ask. It does seem weird. It's sort of a system that's been in place for a long time. I personally, if I think I was buying one, I would want it paunched.
Yeah.
But it's. Can you offer any light on that? It is changing. Oh, okay. That's new. That was just saying it is changing. Chefs as well as dog food companies, they want them paunched now, hares.
Okay.
It wasn't a system before for the last couple of years, but things are changing. I think people are noticing that distinct taste difference, should I say, with or without it.
Yeah,
so
I can see that.
Before we move on to Bobby's bits, which we have warned you about, I've got one final question, which is sort of teeing you up really, in that if you again had the kind of chance to plea to the deer stalking community what you would want to see in a carcass that comes in and gets delivered to you guys, what would the sort of take home message be?
I suppose I'll say it again. The biggest thing is cleanliness. It is ensuring that your carcass is looked after. I know it's on the floor, but respect it still. It's that bleeding the carcass, trying to hang it up when you gralloch. You can do it on the floor, but you tend to get quite bloody and quite messy, which will probably bring me on to an answer of your question later. It's equipment that I use, for example. I love my equipment I got on my car. I think it's a game changer. My biggest thing I say is a winch that I use quite a lot. Yes, it's not the cheapest part to have on a car, but it's a game changer for me that I can dress all carcasses off the ground. So it's not dragging through the mud, especially in the winter when it's pissing with rain sometimes, or you get caught out in bad conditions. And it's getting that carcass straight into a chiller. I could drop it into a tray in the back of my car. I can go straight to a chiller, within half an hour or within an hour of the shot. And it's kept cool. And whether I save 3 up together over 2 or 3 days and take them in, or in my case, I can take them straight in. But commonly, I might go out with my mate on the weekend and we put them all in a chiller, and then Monday morning they go straight to the game dealer. So it's keeping that. We do find it often, and we do push it more than anything now. Maximum 5 days, I say to people on deer for age before it comes in, especially if we're busy, because they could hang for a couple of days before they're skinned. They don't hang skinned; they're cut pretty much straight away. Once the vets come in and stamped them, they're going through the line. But either out whole or frozen down whole for orders or butchered. But they can hang for a couple of days in skin, depending on how many deer we've got. So don't bring something in that's 7 or 8 days old, because then it started to go black and we have to skin it immediately and stop what we're doing. Specific, because your muntjac, your roe, your fallow, everything's separate. So that, as we like to offer venison as such, it's not just venison, it's not just one generic piece of cut of meat, it's all species specific. You can have it numerous different species that all taste different, in my opinion. That's the main reason, is to work with us a little bit. It does start to go quite dark and it can go furry even if it's 10 days old, even in correct temperatures.
Yep, no, they've definitely seen that before. And if someone listening is thinking about coming and supplying you, what do they need to do?
Reach out to us at Oakland's, our website, which is www.oaklandparks with an S, that's the common one, .co.uk. All the details are on there to reach out to us on the About Us page. You can contact any one of the departments, and there's email addresses on there as well. That's the common one. I'm not sure.
And you need the normal, obviously DSC1 or your large game hygiene.
Got to have a large game hygiene or a gaming hygiene certificate with a hunter's number. Yeah. And we do need copies of that for the vet's sake. I think people feel free to ring us up if they like to speak with us. I'm not sure on our supplier list at the moment, to be honest. We've got a lot of suppliers, so I'm going to be a bit wary of who we accept, and just be careful on that for the next couple of weeks into the season to see how we go. But there are opportunities that will open up for us to take on new suppliers.
I can't remember her name, but you've got a very nice lady in the office who tends to answer the phone a lot, who I've annoyed a couple of times when I've called asking for various bits and pieces, but she's very helpful.
Okay, there's Angela on sales. She sits in the main office. I've actually fixed our phone system now, so it actually rings to the right department, rather than ringing everybody. But yeah, from there you can select to speak to me in accounts or intake, or one of the ladies on sales.
Amazing.
So, and do you get a lot of chance to get out stalking yourself, Joe, or are you pretty busy when obviously season mainly starts, I imagine?
A lot of it's the same for me as other people, I think. Yes, I can go out. It's like going out, for example, last night I went out on the prickets, but then I'm getting back at 10, 11 o'clock, and then up at the crack of dawn for work, and it's not the best routine to get into. I prefer it when the season in November to start going out. Obviously work around estates. Some people don't care about me shooting deer with the game birds down. Some people do. So it's getting that balance between places. But my busiest period is February and March, that's for sure. Everybody's going out then, but that's the time I can really make a difference and really do a bit of deer management. Yes, it's better to do it over a longer period of time, so you're not harassing the deer in a certain area. But same, it just depends on whether you can or can't go, and they often say you can't go to that wood and you can't go to that wood and stay away from this wood because of the birds. And I understand everybody's got their own system, but I do like to get out every now and then. I like to go out with one of my mates, or I go out on a bit of my own ground. Yeah, that's a fair point. So I was saying that the common thing, and I must admit I've done it myself so I can understand it, but it's different now as you learn over the years, is concentration on the seasons. When does are in, shoot the does. Don't shoot the biggest buck that runs around the corner, because I can understand why. Like I said, I've done it myself. I've come around the corner and you see a lot of people will go, well, that's worth double the doe, so I'm going to shoot that one. Or it's a nice set of antlers on it. But it's not deer management. Your correct deer management is shoot the does, get the numbers down, control those, because that is your population, that is your rebirth. That's where your numbers are going to increase. And obviously, same again, when the bucks are in, shoot the prickets. Don't shoot every buck you see, because then if you want deer to be around for your next year's stalking, obviously there's a certain level of deer management. But if you want any deer at all for the future, you won't have any if you shoot all the big bucks. They'll go elsewhere. And your genetics won't be very good on the area. So shoot the prickets, shoot the younger bucks, but work with it. Work with your estate and what you've got.
Just out of my curiosity, Joe, what caliber are you using? Which camp do you fall in?
I've recently moved on to the 2506. Absolutely love it.
There you go. You've got a friend in Harry forever.
Brilliant.
Very few of us.
Yeah, actually, saying that, a friend of mine, Ethan, who works for the company as well, he uses a 6.5 Creedmoor, but he started using his 2506 recently. Loves it. Round that he always used to use, and thought 6.5 seemed like a name, so to speak, to him, so he transferred. But But well, the round works for me. Anything up to about 200, 250 meters, I've got no problem with personally. And I have 100%
brilliant.
confidence in the rifle and the round I use, so that's what I stick with.
And the
That's one thing
recoil
is nothing really.
minimal.
Well, to me, yes, I think the biggest thing I would say to a lot of people is if you're happy with the rifle, stick to it. A lot of people have got 4 or 5 rifles. Personal preference, completely understand. I get it. I've got a few, but I stick to one. I have a smaller caliber, a 223 for your muntjac and that sort of thing. But if I'm going out for fallow or roe or something, I've just got one rifle in the car that I can use for everything. Don't start alternating between the other twos, because then I don't think you gain that confidence in that rifle. You know when something goes wrong. You know whether it's you that squeeze the trigger, or you know if maybe a moderator was loose. You become part of that rifle, should I say?
Very true. As someone
Yeah.
with too many rifles, I'm aware of the issues. Should we say?
I wasn't going to single you out and make you feel bad, Harry, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, how many rifles does Harry have again?
Yeah, I do need to thin it down.
I understand the passion and the love for having them. I used to have a few, but I'm selling my 243, and I'm pretty much down to my 223, my 25/6, and it's nice to have them. But my 25/6 can do everything except maybe shooting your red stags in Scotland, for say. You might want a 30/6 or 308 perhaps, but
yeah,
I don't personally do a lot of that, so it's not a caliber I need.
I think it's brilliant in Scotland. Actually, I've shot some stags in Scotland, and it's perfect.
Okay.
Very good lines. But anyway, no one wants to hear about my love for the 25/6, apparently.
So now that we've ventured into kit, I feel like it's only fair that we venture into Bobby's box, or into Bobby's bit. Sorry, maybe that's what we should call it. We should say we're going into Bobby's box to talk about Bobby's bits.
Sounds very
Or does that just sound even more dodgy? So Joe, and I've promised we're not going to explain Bobby's bits anymore, because apparently we've done it too many times. So we're just going to dive straight in. What's the one piece of deer stalking kit you couldn't live without?
I think from what I mentioned earlier, was the winch the biggest thing. It's, well, I know I'm only a young lad, but it's not breaking your back to keep trying to lift a fallow up, or having to have someone out there with you to hold the back legs up in the air so you can get elevation off the ground and dressing that carcass, and it's just keeping it clean. And the last thing you want is muddle down the back end of the carcass or the front end or on the neck when you chop the head off, and then you're not supposed to wash it, but you have to wash it because it's got mud all over it. That's the one bit of kit that I would say to a lot of people as well. It's yes, it's expensive, and it doesn't have to be per se. I mean, I have a heckback box on the back of my car, and a bit of kit my mate of mine obtained from Germany was a winch that slots into it. So it's got a little hole just above the tow bar where it sits on the tow bar, and it is about a 6-foot pole that sort of has to sit at the back of your car. If you've got a truck, it's not a problem. But you can slide HECK if you're looking it up.
I'm going to say we're both Googling it now. HACK.
Oh,
HECK pack.
Oh, heck, box.
Heckback box. There is a company, I believe, in
Heckback
Salisbury. I think
box.
they've relocated to Gatwick now, but they're primarily in Germany. I say I'm driving over to Germany, so I'll probably obtain anything I need in December. But it slots in at the top, and you have a sort of I think it's in 2 bits, and you can hook a winch into the back of your car. So for those that have got a truck and can't actually mount a winch to anything to the back cab, it's a bit of a long bit of kit that's probably in the way. But if it's not, like Ethan, for example, he uses a double set of drawers, and the winch just sits perfectly on top of the drawers in the back of the truck. And if he can't lift a fallow up, he can just slot it into place, and he can grab everything off the ground. Yeah.
And is there a piece of kit or equipment you're hankering after? If money was no object.
A new car, to be honest, but I love my car. I've got a D4 Discovery 4. It's perfect for shooting, perfect off-road, but I do some stupid mileage in it, and it keeps going wrong. So for anybody that might buy it, see it on Facebook Marketplace at some point, it's the best car I've ever owned. But
one very careful owner.
Yeah, of course. Don't get me wrong, I use it for what it's good for. I go off-road in it. I use it for that purpose. it's cost me a lot of money. I spent a lot of money on it. I enjoy it, but I've spent a lot of money on Land Rovers in the few years of my life that I've been driving, and I think it's time for a change. So that is in terms of vehicle, but I would probably say I've always liked the appeal of a Blaser as a rifle. I'm happy with I've used my Scout Mannlicher, and I think it's a lovely rifle. But I've used Blasers in Germany as well, and I think they're brilliant. They're perfect for that use. Very easy rifle to use. I mean, from the statistics they say you could literally drop the rifle and pick it up again, and it's got no problems. I've had a lot of problems with my previous Scout 243, constantly going off zero. In the end, I packed up. I didn't have enough faith in it. But then, funny enough, with the 2506, I've never had a problem. So it does range. Yeah, I think it all goes back to a winch again. I suppose maybe a newer winch. Otherwise, another bits of kit. It's just actually saying that a front winch. Because I have it, it's quite nice to use. Doesn't really work half the time, but when it does work, rather than trying to drag or lift a carcass 200 yards across a field or across a muddy field or a ploughed field because I've been an idiot and shot it in the middle of a game cover crop or something, you just hook it up to a winch, put it on a bit of canvas and just drag it across the field. So you're not going to rip all that hair out the back, get it all dirty. But it's a game changer. You're not spending half an hour of your time doing it, nor breaking your back doing it as well.
Very good. That's a new one, definitely. Is the Scout, the Steyr Mannlicher Scout, is that the one with the bipod that like folds out of the stock?
That's the one I had, yeah. Yeah, it's.
I've never seen one in the wild. That's unusual.
I've still
but
got
very
it
cool.
actually in the safe. I haven't sold it yet, but if you're ever down, you can have a look. But it's. I don't particularly like it. That is because it's got no change. Whereas the Steyr Mannlicher that I've got now it's actually a custom stock, so I can fit my own bipod to it because it's got a custom thumbhole stock. Is being able to fold it down, give yourself different changes of elevation, is a game changer. Having a fixed stock, okay, yes, it's great. You can just fold away and off you go. And it hasn't got a big block underneath your rifle. If you're trying to rest on your wing mirror, for example, you try and hold that. It's not the easiest thing to hold, so it's not resting against the wing mirror. But if you're out in the field, you've got no change of elevation at all. And if you lean forward, it just clips in.
I see. Right.
You can't lean forward on it, for example, or back on it. It just once it goes past its point, it clips in, and the weight takes it. So I sort of fell out with it for that reason. Okay, it looks cool. It's got a 10-round mag. If you're intending on going out and shooting a lot of deer, I think that was my main appeal to it as a kid. I was like, Dad, that looks cool. I want that. Bought it and had it fun for a few years, but it's not practical for me. So time for a change.
Yeah, that's quite the shopping list. New car, new winch, and a Blaser.
Yeah, I think the Blaser will be on the backbone for a while. I can't afford that, nor the car, to be honest. But it's needed. So.
Well, thank you very much, Joe, for joining us. It's been super interesting being able to quiz you about various game dealer aspects and everything else. And thank you very much for giving up your time.
No, thank you guys. It's quite an interesting evening actually as well, discussing it all. And may I say to everyone out there that's listening that it's if you've got any questions, any concerns, just give us a ring, pick up the phone. Happy to talk to anyone about anything. We're not hiding in anything. We're here to help the industry at the end of the day.
Brilliant. And we'll put your details in our description for this podcast. So if anyone wants to find out more, please visit there. And we'll join you all on the next one.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.